Hey guys, Motor City Guitar called me yesterday and they said they got a PRS Archon in on a trade. Now this one is a 50 watt head, it's the first generation and it's made in America. Now I've never played an Archon before, so what I'm going to do is record my first interactions with this amplifier. I'm going to turn it on for the first time right now and dial it in and tell you what my first impressions are. I have everything set to noon and I'm going to adjust the volumes accordingly after I turn the amplifier on. Now I'm going to start off by listening to the amplifier in the room. As you can see, I don't have my in-ears in. You guys are going to be listening to it through the mic'd cabs. The first cab will be the Mesa 212. I'll start on that one, and then I'll switch over to the Diesel 212, and then I will combine the cabs. The Mesa is mic'd with the Royer 121 and SM57. The Diesel is mic'd with the Royer R10 and SM57. After I finish dialing in the amplifier and listening to it in the room, I'm going to go ahead and play it through some mixes while listening to it through my in-ears. Alright, so the amp's been warming up for the last few minutes on standby, so let's go ahead and turn it on and see what it sounds like. And again, everything is set at noon, the bright switch is off, and the volumes are all the way down, so I'm going to turn them up accordingly. I have a meter over here I'm watching on the screen to make sure I give you guys a good volume setting, and I also have my precision drive pedal on. So I'm going to start off dialing in the amp with the pedal on. I slam every amp with an overdrive pedal. It's just the way it is with me. I will show you what it sounds like with the pedal on and off later, but for now, let's start out with the pedal on. Here we go. Okay. Okay, first impressions. This thing is gnarly as hell. Oh my god. There is a lot of low end in this thing. A lot. And I have the depth and bass set at noon. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that issue right now. There's too much low end, but that's okay. I'd rather have an amp that has too much that I can pull out than one that has not enough that I can't dial in. So we're, again, at noon on everything. So let's go ahead and I'm going to turn the depth down to about 10 o'clock and the bass down to about the same. And let's see what we have there. And yeah, let's go ahead and try it out. Alright, that's definitely an improvement, but now I'm dealing with the amp being a little on the dark side because I haven't dialed in the treble, presence, or mids yet, and I also have not engaged the bright switch yet. So let me go ahead and mess around with those settings now and try to get it to sound the way I want it to without engaging the bright switch, and then I'll engage the bright switch and see what happens then. Alright, definitely better. I'm getting a little more aggression out of the amplifier, but I still want a little more top end, and it's still kind of boomy on the low end. So let me go ahead and engage the bright switch and see what happens there, and then I'll dial it in further. Okay, so I have the treble and the presence boosted a little bit on the settings here, and then as soon as I engaged the bright switch, it definitely brightened up a lot. So now I have to adjust the presence and treble accordingly because I'm getting a little too much top end now, and it's a little rattly on the top end. Let me see if I can smooth that out and fix it. I still want to capture that awesome aggression and bite that I love, but it's a little on the rattly side now. Let's see if we can fix that. Okay, that was much, much better. The top end has tons of aggression, but it's a little smoother, and I got rid of that overly aggressive kind of rattle that was going on. All I had to do to address the issue was back the treble and presence down a little bit. They're at top dead center now, and I got the mids at 11 o'clock. So with these settings, I'm going to go ahead and turn the bright switch on and off for you so that you can hear what it does when the amp's set up properly for when the bright switch is engaged. Let's go ahead and start with the bright switch off, and then I'll turn it on while I'm playing the riffs. Wow, it's amazing how much character, texture, and aggression that switch adds. I think they really found a nice sweet spot in the high-end frequencies to give it that bump that it needs to give you that nice bite, attack, and aggression without hurting your ears. So while we're on the Mesa cab, let's do some more fine-tuning and see if I can really get this thing dialed in the room really well. And then I'll switch over to the diesel cab and show you what it sounds like over there. Then I'll combine the cabs, and then I'll do some mixes for you. Man, that is one just nasty, aggressive, gnarly amplifier with a ton of great low end, and the top end will get as gnarly and unruly as you want it to, but you can pull it back and fine tune it. And every little move on those knobs really does a lot. Another thing I noticed too is when you turn the mids up, the volume goes up a lot. So you got to really adjust that knob very carefully. It has a lot of power in that knob, so there's a lot of stuff that happens there, which I find really cool. It's very interesting. Man, I don't think I've ever played an amp that reacted that way with the mids, you know, so it's really interesting so far. I like it with the bright switch on, and then I can pull things back if I want to and really sculpt the top end to my taste. And hopefully it's coming through on the microphones really well for you guys. I'll definitely check that out when I do the editing. So now let's go ahead and switch over to the diesel cab and see what it sounds like over there. And then we'll do the combined cabs. Okay, so now I have both cabs engaged, thanks to the KHE amp and cab switcher. This thing's a freaking godsend, I tell you. It's freaking amazing. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is show you the gain structure of the amplifier. So let's go ahead and start with the gain at 9 o'clock, and then we're going to go to 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then all the way up and see what it does in those settings. Okay, in the room, it felt a little choked or starved at 9 o'clock, and at 12 o'clock it was better, but right around 3 o'clock is when it really started filling up and having that full kind of thick aggression that I look for anyways, and it got nice and saturated right there. And all the way up, honestly, is not too much, which means all of the gain is usable in this amplifier. There's no wasted amounts of gain. Some people prefer more headroom with the gain and want their gain at 11 o'clock. I don't know. I think some people get too in their own heads about, like, I don't want to have my gain past 12. Who cares where it is? As long as it's at a setting that sounds good and fits your taste. I say this all the time. One amp's gain setting at 9 o'clock is another one's at 3 o'clock. All that matters at the end of the day is that it's set to fit your taste and your playing, and it's not too much and too sloppy or overly saturated for the riffs that you're playing. And honestly, on this amp, all the way up, sounds fine. So go ahead and crank it all the way up, because again, it's all usable. All the way up on this amp is kind of like the EVH at around 11 o'clock on the red channel. Honestly, that's about what it reminds me of as far as the gain goes. So now I'm going to switch back to the Mesa cab and find the sweet spot on the gain that works for me anyways. I'll tell you what it is, and then we'll go ahead and turn the overdrive pedal on and off so you can hear what that sounds like as well. Alright, so right around 2 or 3 o'clock is great for rhythms, and if I'm going to use this channel for rhythm and lead, I could honestly get away with just cranking the gain all the way up, and it remains tight enough and not too overly saturated to be tight for rhythms and to be saturated enough for leads. So I got no problem with anywhere between 2 o'clock and all the way up. So now let's see what it sounds like with the overdrive pedal off. And while I'm playing, I'll go ahead and engage the pedal and see what it sounds like in comparison. Now let's turn the pedal on and see how it compares. Alright, I highly prefer the amp with the pedal on, and I think it takes the pedal really well. It doesn't thin out too much, and it still maintains the same tone. It just has a little more aggression, and the response and feel is a lot better, in my opinion, when you have the pedal engaged. Alright, so now let's hear how it sounds in a few mixes with both cabs engaged. Well, there you have it. I documented my first interaction with this amplifier. I've been wanting to play one of these for years, and it was definitely worth the wait. This amp is freaking amazing. I love it. I dialed it in, played it with and without the overdrive pedal, demonstrated how it sounded with the bright switch on and off, and we went through the gain settings as well. On top of all that, played it through a couple mixes for you guys, and I really think this amp definitely passed the test. And if you have this amp already, you know what I'm talking about. The hype's real on this amp. It sounds freaking amazing, and I love it. It takes a boost pedal really well. I love the fact that it has a ton of low end, because amps that are kind of thin and have that really tight kind of feel to them, when you put an overdrive in front of it, a lot of times it cuts out so much low end that the amp thins out and it just sounds like it's choking. This amp has so much low end that there's plenty of room for sculpting with an overdrive pedal, and I really like that a lot. There's plenty of gain and aggression with this amplifier as well, and I really like the bright switch. It adds that really nice searing top end without hurting your ears, and yeah, you have to pull back on the presence and treble a little bit, but that's okay. That's normal. I really think that they found a sweet spot, like I said earlier, with that bright switch. It really nudges the right frequencies, the right amount, and you get that really nice top end and that aggression that we all look for in these amplifiers. Now I'm in the editing mode on this episode right now, and I listened back to how the amp sounded through the cabs when they were mic'd up. Now keep in mind, when I was dialing in the gain on this amplifier and making comments about how much gain it had and the settings that I liked, I was listening to the amplifier in the room, not through the mic'd cabs. Now that I've listened to it through the mic'd cabs, you could probably back the gain down a little bit more, because mics add gain because they're capturing the cab right up on the grill cloth. So I mean, you're like an inch away from the speaker when you have a microphone. In the room, all that gain gets dispersed a little bit, so you can get away with a little bit more gain when you're listening to an amp in the room. That said, I still think it sounds amazing with the gain settings that I had. I could go either way, but I just wanted to make that note for you guys that want to come in here and gain shame me, saying, oh, it's too much gain, man, you should back the gain down. Again, I get it. When you have mics on there, it definitely has a little more gain when you have a mic'd up cab. I'm listening to it in the room, so keep the gain shaming to a minimum. And besides, I understand your mommies don't let you play with that much gain and you're just jealous, so whatever. Anyways, I'm going to shoot this amp out with the EVH Stealth 50 watt because I think that would be an amazing shootout, and I'm going to shoot it out against the PRS MT15 because why not? Let's see how they stack up against each other. And if I get the chance, I'm going to put this up against the one that just came out that's made in China, because as you know, this one's made here in America. So stay tuned for those episodes as well. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode and all the stupid repetitive riffs that I played today. Sorry about that. I had a long day at work today. I watched 4 huge apartment buildings and I'm a little tired. I'll try better next time. To all my subscribers, thank you very much. I really appreciate your support. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, because I got a lot of great stuff coming up, and I'll see you on the next one.